Hi, David. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation and welcome to this very, very special talk.
Thank you.
Well, let me share with you that I haven't talked about this talk with anybody until now. So there is no announcement, no email, no nothing, not even a post talking about this. This is a surprise for everyone. And I'm looking forward to see if food safety professionals in this page enjoy that I invite to talk the food safety professionals who join me to write the monthly articles. I'm just checking out if everything looks fine. Yes, it seems we are live perfectly. So, and we are doing this, and we are doing this talk, and I invite you to join me because we want to head up to the article content and aiming to add more value to food safety professionals. So please, if you are in this page and if you like this talk and you want more talks like this one in the future, don't forget to like this video and leave your comments below. Today, we are talking more about the topic of the article we wrote together with the title Food Safety in the Vegan World. If you miss it, I will share the link in the comments also. David, you have more than 30 years experience in food industry and always in food safety. So are you ready now?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Perfectly. Perfect. So let's start this talk. And I would like to remind you, and I'm sure that you remember, we started the article sharing about the warning from the Food Safety Authority of Ireland regarding the belief that vegan products are completely free from animal-based allergens. And we also talk about a recall case. It is important for food safety professionals and consumers to be aware that vegan products face similar challenge as any other products, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, what do you think about it?
Well, I think vegan is still considered with some people as a novel product, and I think it's with all the new processes and everything else, it can introduce food safety issues that people haven't really discussed at a high level. So, from my personal experience working with vegan food manufacture, there are quite common problems that have been arising that I've been experiencing. Just to give a bit of background, I do actual BRC food safety auditing as well as food safety consultancy for vegan manufacturers. So this is where I'm getting my experience from. I've also been speaking to people like the Vegan Society and other vegan associations, and it seems to me that there are areas that are going to develop and become much more high stream in the future. And I think it's basically something that needs to be considered at an earlier stage, really. So the sort of things that I'm having problems with vegan manufacturers, the fact that the first thing that worries me is the consumer. If I'm a vegan or I'm somebody, a flexitarian as they call them, people that are carry on still eating meat but want to eat vegan products for the environment, health, whatever the reasons are. If you see a food label and it complies to all the food safety legislation, alibi labeling is the bit that I want to talk about. If you see something that you trust a vegan trademark on that label, even if you have all that alibi labeling, like this food manufacturing factory handles nuts, eggs, fish, you're not really going to show interest in that alibi label. And alibi label is quite small on the label as well. The only thing you're going to focus on is that vegan symbol. So, if there is a factory that does handle animal ingredients and there is a potential cross-contamination, if you actually do get that situation, apart from the fact that you're buying a vegan product with animal products, dairy products, there is that potential, if you do suffer from allergens, that you're going to have traces of allergens that you wouldn't expect. So even though we're complying to the food safety legislation, all the labels are being done correctly, is there an area there where we're misleading the consumer? And the Food Safety Act 1990, people don't talk about that anymore. It's my favourite food regulation. I know that sounds a bit sad, but it says a thing called you have to take reasonable precautions. And is it reasonable to sell a product with a vegan symbol on it and still have the alibi labeling that people aren't going to notice and mislead that consumer to think that there's no animal products cross-contaminating it? Even if you put may contain, you're still going to trust that vegan symbol. you're still going to consume it expecting there not to be any fish, no eggs, no dairy, or anything like that. So it just worries me a bit, really, because it's a novel industry. People on all different areas of the industry aren't going to recognise this issue. So I've looked at the FSA website, Food Standards Agency, and I reckon, I won't give any example, but there was about 4 examples I saw last year where they were all recalled because of allergens. And guess what? They all had vegan symbols on them. So if it did go to court, is it the brand owner that's going to go to court? Probably. But, you know, these vegan people that are putting their symbols on that symbol, who's going to be accountable for that? You know, so it's a new area. It's not being discussed. It only takes one big food scare for people to start panicking. So that's what I'm interested in.
Yes, yes. Well, I think that this is not, of course, this is the vegan movement, and the vegan products are not something that arise last year or in the last few years, but we can still consider a trend, right? And trends in food sector can be problematic in the sense industry tends to move fast to take advantage, right, of this growing market. But most of the time, the process controls and even regulations are slower to follow it. This is true, right, for vegan at the moment?
Yeah, there's, I mean, vegan is a claim, definitely. And I'm sure it's covered under the Foods Labelling Act in some respect, but officially there's no food legislation with vegan claims, so you can kind of say what you want, really. So there's a bit of ambiguity there. It's a bit of a grey area. So, for example, if I'm doing a BRC audit, food safety audit, you have to cover things like free from claims, which has a legal implication. But there's nowhere in that BRC audit standards that says, what do you do with vegan claims? You know, I put vegan claims in the report, but there's no legal association. So strictly speaking, I don't actually need to even put that they're making vegan claims in the food safety standard. So it's a bit confusing, really, for the consumer.
And food safety, well, and another consequence of these trends and these fast growing food products demand is economic vulnerability to fraud, right? How do you see the food fraud in vegan products? In your experience, these products have any particular vulnerability?
Yeah, I mean, without getting too technical, VASUP for me is 2 things. It's the likelihood of occurrence, you know, how likely is it going to happen in the industry, and likelihood of detection, you know. So let's start with detection. How do you test a vegan product for animal, dairy, fish? You know, do you do beef? Do you do fish? Where do you start? How does a food manufacturer who's just developed a new vegan product that handles fish, is he going to be aware that there are accredited test methods for fish? You know, there's no scope, there's no guidelines out there, basically, with how you would actually detect potential contamination. And another thing is the supply chain with all these raw materials, novel raw materials like cheese substitutes, milk. You know, is there any method of detection between the difference between milk and oat milk, for example? You know, there's nothing established there. So, you know, if the detection isn't very good and the likelihood is great because, let's say, for example, vegan cheese, which is more expensive than, let's say, a conventional cheese, then there's an economic attraction there for fraudsters. So you've got a combination of where you can make more profit by putting animal products in, and there's a lack of detection. Not only that, let's say you get a delivery of milk powder, it's white, okay, intake. Have those people that have got BRC or GFSI food safety, do they know, have they been trained in how to deal with the difference between a milk powder and something that's a vegan powder, you know? So the food safety culture that the BRC talks about, for example, where people are aware of what could contaminate their products, that you haven't got that level of awareness from the supply chain, the training in the staff, the food safety culture, and it's not being recognised fully in your BRC food safety, GFSI food safety standards. So you've got a complete chain of vagueness there that can crop up. Now, I know that you said that vegan products have been around for a long time, but in my opinion, it's the last 2 years where it's really taken off. And I do think you need to approach it like you would any allergens. You know, start thinking about legislation. If you don't want to do vegan, let's start with plant-based. You know, that's very objective, isn't it? You can test for plant-based. Everybody knows what is expected from a plant-based claim. You know, whereas vegan, you know, it can get into ethics. It can talk about GMO, sustainability, cruelty-free. You know, do the almonds, are they sourced from somewhere in Indonesia where monkeys are being used to harvest the nuts? It's very complicated. So I think you need to start from a base for food safety level. And I think plant-based is where we start. And that's what I've been involved with.
And food safety, you have shared, please, please.
Please. No, as I said, I think VASUP, vulnerability threat assessments, I've been involved with that. I've taken it very seriously. I've ran training courses on it, and the majority of companies I've audited over the years, it's very rare when you find anybody that's identified an ingredient as high risk. What does that tell you? It basically tells you that it's a bit of a paperwork exercise. And then you've got these vegan products coming into the equation where there is a genuine VASUP vulnerability threat problem, and it's not being taken seriously. So, you know, for me, that's a bit frustrating. I think the BRC could capture this and do a really good job of it if it was taken a bit more seriously. So your question was, is there a risk with VASUP? And my answer would be, yes, there is.
Yes, and you already shared with us a lot about the importance of food safety, and food safety has a crucial role to support the status of vegan products as an alternative to fish and meat, as we are talking about. So I think that, I believe you agree with me, that the last thing vegan food manufacturing industry needs is for consumers to have the same concerns about authenticity or the safety of the vegan products as they have with non-vegan products. Do you agree with me, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Yes, and well, but now let's move on, because I'm very curious and like for you to share with us, because I know that you are developing a food safety scheme to use in vegan industry. What can you tell us about that project?
Yeah, I mean, I've been started working with vegan startup companies about 2 years ago. And obviously that made me attracted to various vegan-free, vegan claim, vegan trademark organizations. And all of these organizations globally, what they do is they're very good at looking at ingredients to see if there's any animal, dairy, fish, crustaceans, mollusks, whatever it is. They understand what is basically animal and what isn't animal in the ingredients, which is great. But the big gap for me was we're still getting product recalls where animal products have contaminated vegan products. So there's something wrong, isn't there? So basically, I've been working in BRC, GFSI food safety standards for years. And what I've basically done is I've actually created a food safety vegan standard. Now, the concept, the idea behind that is that it needs to be very GFSI focused, very GFSI formatted. The reason for this is that I've been involved with an American company called BVeg. They're a vegan claim, vegan-free claim organization. They've got ISO 17065 and 67, which means they're taking this idea of certification very seriously. And the difference between what they're doing and what I've developed and this company with other vegan organizations is that we're not just looking at ingredients. We start off with the supply chain. So you have to approve a company that you can trust. You have to approve a company that understands cross-contamination. So then when you get your raw materials at your factory, you understand based on risk assessment, like any other BRC risk assessment, what could contaminate that vegan ingredient. And that's then reflected in the training, the food safety culture. And then you're looking at cross-contamination of that factory, which also handles perhaps meat, fish, dairy, eggs, and you prevent cross-contamination through your processes, through product changeovers, through trainings, supervision, and that is something nobody else is doing. And then you're looking at the claims you're making, you're looking at product changeovers. So you're basically looking at all the standard GFSI food safety controls, and you're putting that into a very focused vegan certification standard. So that when the consumer basically gets their product, you can trust that vegan symbol a lot more. And the last thing is, you get your certification, everything's fine, but things change over that 12-month certification. And the standard, the scheme, designed that if there are any changes, how do you control that? For example, new product development, you know, everybody knows about change management. If you go from one raw material to another, you know that it could cause an allergen risk that wasn't there previously. You know that if you change suppliers, you have to risk assess that. So it's the same again with vegan products. Any changes, it needs to be risk assessed. Are your controls effective? Have they identified all the risks? And is everything ongoing? And that's part of the certification as well. And so if you've got a very GFSI style certification, you can then use all the certification bodies globally, and those auditors that are trained in that vegan standard, they already know what you're talking about because it's a GFSI recognized standard. So it's practical to implement. So it's very unique. It's taken off. It's attracted very, very big companies like Sentinel and other companies in America. And it's taking veganism very, very seriously. It's starting off with plant-based, and then you can systematically and very logically develop GMO, sustainability, cruelty-free, because you've got that rock, that establishment of plant-based, something that you can actually trust. So that's basically what I've been working with, really. So it's very exciting, it's very interesting, it's unique, and it's a systematic way of bringing everything up to standards, professional and recognised by the world, really. The same as it would be for allergens. So it's food safety, it's everything.
Yes, and well,
Yeah.
and I think it's great news for the vegan industry, and well, I'm looking forward to follow. I have known about your work for a while now, but I'm looking forward to continue to follow this work because it seems really interesting for the vegan industry. Well, David, thank you again for being here. I have only 2 questions to finish our talk. First, before my last question, do you have any special message, any final message you'd like to share with the food safety professionals that are watching this talk today?
Yeah, I mean, I think don't treat vegan products as novelty or as pretentious. It's vegan products are being consumed by vegans. I think it's 6%. Everybody else is flexitarian, and you know, it's vegan products are that they can be chilled, they can be frozen, they can be ambient. They've got the same food safety issues that any other product would have. They're making claims, which means I think they should be having the same legal backup that every other type of product has to take in, and just to take it a bit more seriously. And I'd love to see GFSI, BRC, food safety standards regard it as a legal claim, so that we can then start making auditors and food manufacturers aware of the food safety issues that we've got with vegan products, allergens, micro, foreign bodies. You can still get metal in a vegan product. The fact that it's vegan, it's not a toy, you know, it's a real food product. It's actually giving people nutrition. And I would love to see vegan products being taken a lot more seriously by the establishment, you know.
Okay, great message. So my last question for you, David, today is, if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing in food safety, what that would be?
Everybody to turn vegan. And do it safely and properly.
Okay.
But that's
Okay.
my bias now, because I'm a vegan.
Okay, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
David. Well, thank you so much for your time. I had a great time today, and and thank you for being this first person to join me in these talks. And hopefully, let's see how people react. I'm looking forward to see if people like this video, if people comment on this video below the video, so I can see if this is something that they would like to do more, and if so, I will always invite my co-authors to join me in talks and to develop a little bit more the content of the articles. I think this is another way for people to get access to the content of the articles, and in a more informal way. Hopefully some of you prefer this version, other of you may prefer to read on the blog, but well, whatever your preference, you have two options to get access to the content and the knowledge inside the articles. Again, thank you so much, David, for being here, and well, we'll keep on talking, right?
Great, thanks, Nuno. Really nice to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you
Good
for your
luck.
time. See you soon. Bye bye. Stay safe.
Take care then. Bye bye.